Good morning, and so welcome to the fourth Pimento Business Development Club of 2024. If you don't know me, I'm Paddy Woods, and I'm the director of Pimento Fuse, which is a new business consultancy that is built to solve and energize independent agencies' new business and marketing growth. Now, if you haven't been on previous calls, please do use the chat box to ask questions, as they'll help us sort of in the later stages of this webinar. So today's session is going to be slightly different. Claire is going to be taking us through a presentation on the benchmarking sort of report that she released recently, and it's going to be delving into the intricacies of agency marketing to help give you insights into where agencies are succeeding and where they could do better in their own marketing activity. This is year 2, I think, isn't it, Claire?
Yeah, it's the second year. It's bigger and better this year.
So, which is really exciting to sort of hear what you've got to say. But so second year of Chime doing this research, and actually, if you haven't read it, there's some really interesting insights that reveals that smaller independent agencies are really struggling in this space around their marketing and their investment into it. So the aim is to help highlight the areas that you could focus on and do better at, but also focus on and sort of prioritize to help you sort of with your own activity. So it's something I think today is really important in today's market conditions. So as I said, we're welcoming back Claire, second year running. She's going to take us through this research. Claire is the founder of Chime Agency, which is a marketing agency for marketing agencies, I believe is the best way of describing it.
Yeah, it's about as succinct as we can get it.
Yeah, but I'm not going to do the intro to her. So Claire, over to you if you'd like to just introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you so much, Paddy. Thank you for having me. Yes, I am Claire, founder of Chime Agency. We are a marketing agency for agencies. And yeah, we work with the whole gambit of agencies, from kind of small startups to big network agencies and everything in between, to help with the kind of the one challenge that all agencies seem to face: their own marketing. And hopefully today will go some of the way to helping you. Are you happy for me to get into this now, Paddy?
Yeah, I was going to say over to you, Claire. So thank you. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. So, yes, here we go. The future of agency marketing. We do this research. It's the second year that we've done it, and the reason why is because we know how hard it is for agencies to show up consistently with their marketing, managing the kind of roller coaster of the new business machine, finding the time and the resource to really fully commit to it. It's really difficult. It's something that we all struggle with. And we decided that knowledge is power. We wanted to understand where agencies were really getting it right, what the stumbling blocks were, and who's doing it well, so that we can all learn to do better. And hopefully a bit of what we're talking about today will kind of point you in the right direction and give you some food for thought. So I will tell you a bit about the research now. So this year we scored 200 agencies, all different shapes and sizes. It was 150 agencies in the UK and 50 in the US across 9 different specialisms. So everything from kind of video production agencies through to digital web agencies, and everything in between, really. We did 2 more specialisms this year than last year. We added in copywriting and content agencies and video production agencies. So we've got even more of a breadth of the types of businesses that we're looking at. And how we do the research is we manually score these agencies across 47 different questions, and the questions assess their positioning, their websites, their socials, leaders' profiles, their content, and their overall strategy. It's about 150 hours worth of the team's time that goes into kind of scoring and analysing all the data. It's really robust, and there's a lot in there. So there's only so much that we can squeeze into sort of 10-15 minutes up front here. There's a much fuller report, which is a kind of 94-page long, beautiful thing with pictures in to break it all up, which you can download off our website, or I'm sure Paddy will be able to send around to those of you after this that are interested. But here we are. I will give you some of the headlines, and this is the scoring, basically. So this is all of the agencies all kind of lumped together, and their averages across those kind of different buckets. And you can see here that the benchmark, the average score of agencies that we scored was 28 out of 47. But that doesn't really mean anything. So I'll go into this in a bit more detail. And I kind of wanted to kick us off by looking at the difference between this year's scores and last year's scores, because 2023 and coming into this year, it's been a bit of a torrid year for a lot of agencies. I don't need to tell you that it's been really tough out there, and we see that in our research as well. And overall, the overall scores, the overall benchmark is down this year. It's down by almost 60%. We saw that 58% of agencies scored below last year's benchmark this year. And then on top of that, there's been a drop in the quality of content too. So 60% of agencies, the quality of their content has dropped. And we also rescored 60 of the agencies we scored last year. So we looked at 100 agencies last year, 200 this year. We rescored 60 of those original agencies. And actually 60% of them, their scores have dropped too. And they've dropped by about 12% overall. But actually, a quarter of the agencies that we scored this year were from the US. And actually, it's these US agencies that are bringing the total average down. 70% of US agencies score below the benchmark in comparison to just 35% of UK agencies scoring below our benchmark this year. And it's for a lot of reasons. Like, it's across the board. UK agencies perform better, but actually that kind of presents quite a significant opportunity for UK agencies, we think. We think that if you're a UK agency, particularly if you've got a strong niche, a strong kind of specialism, you've got the opportunity to expand into the US, either as partnering with a larger US entity, or just by going direct to clients yourselves. Conversion rate at the minute means that we're cheap. We have got better client services as a rule. That function is a more rounded function in the UK than the US. US agencies, from our research, their positioning is not as strong. Their propositions aren't as strong. They don't tend to niche in quite the same way. There's a lot of big full service agencies that do a lot of everything. Those agencies that are specialists are already very, very large. So they kind of just don't really niche in the same way as us. But it means that if you are a specialist agency, you've got a distinct industry niche, you've got that opportunity to partner with a larger entity in the US and bring a lot of the skills that you've got to their clients. So we think that's a real opportunity for UK agencies this year. It's not all bad though. Agency positioning, this is an area of our research where we saw an uplift this year. So when we looked at the positioning of agencies, we've seen a 16% uplift. But it means that there's a kind of this weird disconnect between the overall marketing scores going down, but the positioning element of it going up. And we think that could be because of the market turbulence that we've seen in the last sort of 12 to 18 months. It could be that whilst most agencies are needing to retract their internal resources and how they're doing their marketing, those that have been able to invest have been able to do that by looking at their positioning. Now, hopefully, we think this is a really good thing. And hopefully this means that when we kind of hear this time next year and we're looking at this, hopefully it means that those overall scores will have gone up as well, because we know that when an agency has strong positioning, their content and their marketing receives about 39-40% higher engagement rates overall. So there's this link between strong positioning and better marketing overall. So hopefully next year we'll be in a slightly different position when we're talking about this again. However, it doesn't get you off the hook. There's still a long way to go when it comes to agency positioning. You can see the stats here. There's sort of 42% of agency lack clarity in their messaging, 56% do not have a clear target audience, and 36% don't align the content that's on their website to the positioning that's on their website. So there's a disconnect between the marketing that they're putting out in the world and what they say they do and who they say they do it for on their website. And we couldn't have done a piece of research and talked about agencies without thinking about AI. whilst it may seem like there's a lot of chat about in and around agencies about AI, generative AI at the moment, we wanted to look very specifically and pointedly as to whether agencies were talking about AI and what AI means for their clients, and if they had a strong opinion on AI from the agency brand. And actually, 67% of agencies had no opinion on how AI would impact their clients, from what we saw. And it could be that we just don't have the answer yet, or it could be that the vast majority of agencies are really missing a trick here in getting ahead of the curve and having a really definite position on how they think AI is going to impact their clients' businesses and the industry at large, or the sectors that they operate in at large. It's something that we're doing at Chime. We're developing a piece of tech at the minute which is powered by AI, and it kind of gives us a front row seat, as it were, on the kind of the developments that are happening here, and it gives us something to talk about with clients. It's a tool that we can talk about with them, and we're a small agency. We've got a government grant to kind of part fund the development of that tech, and so if we can do it, I think some of the bigger businesses that are in the room today are able to do it, and to have a firm position and understanding of how AI is going to impact their clients. And this leads me on to talking about hero moments, and this is where we think agencies can really have an impact with their marketing. And a hero moment, how we would define a hero moment, is a singular campaign backed by thought leadership or research, something that is really, really meaty, that ladders back to your positioning, gives your founders and leaders a platform to be able to talk at events at, but will also fuel your full funnel, so that when you're getting into sales conversations with prospects, or you're at pitch cred stage, you've got something meaty to fuel those conversations as well. So we looked in the research, and I'll show you in a moment. We see how many agencies had a hero moment, and really a hero moment is that Venn diagram that we've got here of your clients' challenges, understanding their needs, combined with your positioning and essentially what you're selling. And in the middle of that is your hero moment that you build a campaign around. Having something big and meaty like this means that it can really help with the consistency of your marketing, really focus your team around one thing that you're talking about, streamline your marketing operations. When there's one big campaign, it means it's easier to measure ROI on. You can get the whole team involved in it, and it can fuel your sales funnel for kind of 6 to 12 months worth of content, and give you something that you become known for. Spoiler alert, this piece of research is Chime Agency's hero moment, and it's a real missed opportunity, because actually 74% of agencies are not using hero moments currently. Only 26% are, and it is a real missed opportunity, and something that it does bring consistency to your marketing, and we know that that's an ongoing challenge for agencies. But just like back to this one, thinking about the positioning, and where there are challenges there for agencies about not being really clear about who their clients are and what their clients' challenges are. If you haven't got that bit, it makes this even harder. So that's potentially one of the reasons why agencies aren't using this strategy in their marketing. We looked at all sorts of agencies, from kind of small 5-person agencies to 100-person plus agencies, and in the report you can see a breakdown by size and scale. And actually we'd see that size does matter when it comes to agency marketing, because the top 10% of all the agencies we scored, 37% of the top 10% were 100-person plus agencies. So the bigger agencies are scoring much higher than the smaller agencies, because the bottom 10% was filled with 52% smaller agencies, and we define smaller agencies as kind of under 15 people. But there is one area where smaller agencies outperform their bigger counterparts, and that's when it comes to their founders brand. And it makes sense, because smaller agencies, their new business, their leads are going to come much more from the founder, from word of mouth, referrals, and so they're really leaning into their founders brand. So that, I think, that's why that is happening. But we see this gap open up actually between kind of 16 to 30 people agencies, where the founder's brand isn't necessarily producing the types of leads and the types of new business that a scaling agency needs. And so that's a real focus for agencies when they're in that kind of 15 to 30 up to about 50 people mark. So really the focus here, and kind of looking at the balance between the personal brand of the founder and the agency brand. Here's a kind of some top tips from us. So if you're an under 15 person agency, really lean into your founders. People buy from people, we know that. So you're going to have to get out there and meet people and be the face of your business. And some agency owners, particularly if you've come from a kind of a craft background, can find that really difficult. But even though you're leaning into that, you know that this gap is going to open up as you scale, if scaling up beyond 15 people is what you want to do with your business. So start laying the foundations now for your agency brand, so that your agency has something to talk about as well, because when you get to that 16 to 30 person mark, this gap will open up where you'll need to build a marketing machine for the agency that can scale. And you as a founder or a leader of that business, you can't scale you as an individual. So there's this shift in your marketing that needs to happen around this point, where you start using your leaders and your founders as a vehicle for your agency's marketing, rather than the sole route, being the sole route to market. And then there are things that larger agencies can learn from smaller agencies as well. Whilst they do score higher, there's a real opportunity for bigger agencies to use their wider employee network and start building the brands of their future leaders, so that it's not all on the founder if they're still in the business, or the leadership team. So that's sort of it from me, from the research this year. You can download the report on our website. I'll get the link sent around and get this presentation sent around, and our portal is there too, on the Pimento portal as well. That's us. I'll try
Brilliant.
and stop sharing my screen now.
Fabulous, Claire. Thank you so much. That was really, really useful and a very good sort of top line, sort of introduction to the sort of conversation, and sort of my door's just gone. But the question I sort of wanted to start with, which is around actually helping agencies understand what sort of level of investment they should be giving to their marketing budgets to help push this out.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I'd say set a marketing budget, because not all agencies do, and it's really important to have a line in your P&L. I'd say work with your FD or your accountant or whoever's sort of helping you with budget setting, because having a line in your P&L is really important to help you gain that consistency more than anything. I've seen so often agencies, they might have a marketing manager, but they have to ask for every sort of 500 quid that they want to spend, put a business case for it, and it means everything's a bit slower, and you can't just get going and get cracking and have a plan that you execute on. So firstly, set a budget. Secondly, we would usually say, as a rough guide, looking at kind of 10% of turnover as a people and out cost budget, or 3 to 5% if you're not including your people costs. And just be really clear about what you're going to include in that budget as well. So you might include things like events and networking in that budget, but others wouldn't. That might come in a training cost or a separate networking budget. Your tech and tools that you use for your own marketing, they may be the same as the ones that you use for your clients. They may be different. So just be really clear about what's actually going to go into that budget as well. Hopefully that's useful.
No, thank you. And when you're going through the presentation, you were talking about sort of 56% of agencies don't have a clear target audience, and sort of, so they're very generalist in who they're approaching. And actually, why do you think that is, and what should agencies be doing to help build out their target audience? What is the process? Because I've been working with someone recently, and actually from all the recent pitch activity, the losses that they suffered actually helped formulate one of the reasons why their ICP changed, and actually culture became a real key focus for them in that sort of pitch, why to go for pitches and why not to. So it'd be great to sort of get from your view that so why and how to do it.
Yeah, so I think there's probably a few reasons why. The big one is there's this fear around niching and missed opportunity that may come with that. There's a fear that if you only work in one particular sector, there won't be enough opportunity there, and you're going to miss out on some sexy new clients somewhere else. I think that's probably the big one. But I also think that probably often when I speak to founders of agencies, how they talk about their business with me or when they're in a room is very different to what is on their website, or potentially how the rest of their team describe what the agency is as well. So part of what we've kind of seen in our research is potentially like this misalignment and lack of internal comms and lack of investment in their marketing, when actually when the leadership team are talking about their business, they may understand it, but it just isn't communicated more widely. So there's the two whys, I think. What was the second part of your question, Paddy?
How to go out and build sort of that right ICP target audience profile.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of comes back to the kind of fun, fame, fortune of where your what the work that you love winning and working on, what's profitable work, where do you make your most money, what do you and the team love working on, is there commonalities between them? And there's many ways to skin a cat. You don't just have to just speak to professional services businesses and do marketing for them. You can cut it many different ways. And yeah, it's about thinking really holistically about what is right for your business, whilst also taking into account market conditions, and understanding what's going on in your target client sectors and industries. I think like often more worryingly is you'll see an agency where they're like, yes, we do websites for e-com brands, but they don't go a step further to understand or articulate the challenges that those brands have and show a real understanding of their needs, and the solutions that they therefore provide for them. That's a really big part of this as well.
Brilliant. I'm actually going to bring Charlotte Anderson in. Hi, Charlotte. How you doing? You hiding?
Hello. Oh, I'm off. Look, hang on. I'll turn my camera on. Hello.
Hello. Good to see you. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Hello. Hi. Thanks,
Hi.
Claire. I think your report is wonderful. I've got a couple of questions around hero moments. I'd love to understand from your experience the lifespan of a hero moment. How long should it last for? And what are your tips for extracting the maximum amount of value from your hero moment?
Thank you. Great questions. So in terms of the lifespan, we think it can last a year. Our research lasts us a full year, and then we do it again the next year. And actually, when we're scoping hero moments for our clients, we'll look at 1 to 3 years and how it can grow and develop and evolve over a 3-year period. But really, the whole point is that you've got something that can almost become IP for your agency. It can become so embedded in how you operate your business that it's part of what you do. So for us, for example, the scoring matrix that we use for our research is also the same scoring matrix that we use in competitor analyses when we're working with agencies. We can also offer out kind of audits using it as well. So it's so embedded in how we operate. And that's what we look to do, that it's an ongoing thing that will grow as your business grows and give you something to really hang your hat on. And if you can embed it in your business in such a way, it means that there's almost infinite possibility of how you can cut it, slice it, dice it, extract more content from it. So using us as an example, because you've seen it now, we've got social posts, for example, written already for the next 6 months, and we do that in a concerted period before the research launches, where it's heads down and we create a lot of that content, and then it's done and it's ready to go for the rest of the year. And so you can get that consistency, both in the consistency of what you're saying, but also the regularity and the rhythm of how you're saying it, by just having a really strong focus up front that then fuels the rest of your year. I hope that answers your question.
Brilliant. Thank you. And actually, just bringing on the content, some of the hardest, I think agents really struggle with writing their own content, and helping make it relevant between their positioning, their opinions, and getting it out to those clients. Is there any tips you can give to help agencies get the right content across to make them outside of the generic?
I think it's about being really honest with yourselves about where your strengths and weaknesses are, because we can't all do it all. And it's also the time investment that you can really give it within your business too. And being really honest about that. You know, we work with agencies that do what we do for their clients, but they just don't have the time, or they're really too close to it. And sometimes having, whether it's a freelancer or, you know, people like Chime, having that kind of expert external opinion can really help. Often we see with content that some agencies, particularly kind of the more like dev or tech agencies, they can be, actually it happens with kind of branding agencies sometimes too, but often there's real technical stuff that actually doesn't always translate to the person that's buying the services. You know, the people within your business can get really excited about something that's really deep tech. And that might be useful as educational content for some of the people that you're working with on a day-to-day basis. But in terms of selling the agency and your proposition, it can be difficult and fall flat and not actually land with the CMO or the CEO or the whoever it is who's buying your services. So yeah, it's about getting that balance right and understanding where you need to bring in support to help you, really.
Brilliant. And actually on that positioning side of things as well, which is it's good to see that it's increased in sort of agencies focusing on their positioning. But one of the things that sort of you said, the flip side is that even though they've worked on their positioning, it's not then correlating between how they're talking about it in pitches, what that's on their websites. Why do you think that is? And
well, the agencies where they have a strong positioning, we see it, that I think it's 39%, there's greater engagement on their socials from client side people. So those agencies that have a strong positioning, they're the ones that are performing better and bringing the scores up. So there is a correlation there. I think, yeah, the interesting bit is that's the bit that's gone up this year. And I think it's potentially where, if agencies have had to reshape their resource, maybe there hasn't been as much business, there's been less work from clients coming in. So if there's been downtime, that's where they've focused potentially. But yeah, it's a few out of the 200. So yeah. Hopefully it means that this time next year the overall scores will start to go up, if that's a trend that continues.
Yeah, awesome. I've got a question that David's asked, but it's about sort of niching down and sort of focusing on becoming specialists in that side of things. Do you think agencies should be doing that to really sort of help cement their place in that sort of that lane that they're working in?
Yes. I know when I meet people, I do a lot of networking and chatting to people, and when I come away and there's a really clear, I know when they've got a clear position and a clear niche, be that they're the services that they offer or who they offer it to, when that's very clear, I know who to introduce them to, and I will make introductions. And when I come away and think, I can't really introduce them to anybody, it's when they don't have a clear position, clear niche, or clear articulation of what they do and who they do it for. And it's the same when you're talking to clients. If you are not clear on that, your clients aren't going to know why to buy you. And niching doesn't have to be super niche. It doesn't have to be one agency, one service. There's lots of different ways that you can cut it, but it's being really clear about that so that when you articulate it, it's understood and people know when and how to buy your services. It really helps.
The reason I raised that question is, you can imagine, I speak to dozens of agencies across the year, both within the network and perspective, etc. And I think overall, a lot of agencies have a real problem with their proposition, trying to articulate it. In an age-old problem. But yeah, the niching down thing just seems to be a bit trendy. It's been sort of agencies have realised that maybe they should be a little bit more focused on what they do. And I think
it's difficult when an agency gets bigger as well. So if you're a 70, 100 person agency, niching your services, for example, at that point, or the sorts of clients that you're working with, it can be really difficult because there's multiple revenue streams, and it can feel even scarier when you're bigger. It's probably easier to do when you're a smaller business, but if you're a larger business, it doesn't always work. And actually, when you look at like bigger networked agencies or bigger businesses, maybe less of the independent agencies, that part can be really difficult on their positioning as well, because they necessarily do a little bit of everything for everyone because they've acquired other businesses or whatever it may be. So it doesn't work for everyone, specifically niching, but having the clear articulation of whatever it is you do and who you really want to work with, that can work for everyone, will work for everyone.
Finally, the one other quick question I picked up on as you were chatting was agencies are too close. And I do find that often that, sometimes agencies just assume that everybody's going to understand what they do. And because they're living it day in and day out, they just assume everybody else can live it day in and day out. And, some of them have got quite tricksy propositions, and they're quite difficult to communicate.
Yeah, it is. I met an agency owner the other day who runs a 50-person digital agency in Shoreditch, and they're going through this at the minute because he was like, we talk about digital transformation, and a few years ago, like digital transformation was a big buzzword, but it means something completely different depending on who you're talking to, and it isn't strong enough for when they're going out to market. And so that's a challenge for them at the minute. What on earth does digital transformation actually mean?
Well, again, a lot of agencies, a lot of clients have done digital transformation thinking, well, we've done that, big box tick. But in fact, and as you know, we've set up a group within Pimento called the Evolutionaries, because actually transformation is an evolutionary process. You don't do it once, it should be a continual process. So yeah, agencies need to be probably a bit smarter on that as well. Anyway, I'll shut up now. Great report, Claire. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Brilliant. Thanks, David. Actually, Claire, you talked about the tool that you've been working on. What's interesting is why, from your perspective, why did you set it up? What's it there to do? And I know it's in the iteration of moving it forward, but it's an interesting journey because a lot of agencies do shy away from or don't know about the government grants or the sort of access to sort of significant amount of funding to help you build these.
Yeah, so last year we knew that we needed to have a position on Gen AI. Obviously, it's gone through a massive transformation in the last 12-18 months, and its capabilities are wildly different to what it was when we first started looking at this. But we were looking for a tool to solve a particular problem that we had, that we thought it must exist. There must be something out there that can help us do this. And it was originally to try and help us do something within our business. And we couldn't really find one. We couldn't really find one that worked particularly well. And so we were like, oh, maybe we just tried. It was like one of those, it was a wild idea. We were like, maybe we just try and do it ourselves. And then we had a brainwave and we were like, actually, there's somebody that we know who could probably help us build this. And we got very lucky that as we were thinking about it, there was an Innovate UK grant that was closing in a couple of weeks' time. So we kind of scrabbled together a business plan essentially, and figured it all out. And we put in the grant application, and kind of 6 months later we were awarded it, and they awarded us 50 grand to start developing this. And if anyone's developed tech products before, you'll know that 50 grand doesn't actually go that far, but it's a significant amount, and it's got us out the starting blocks. And it's a grant, so it's not a loan. There's quite a lot of hoops to jump through, and admin and bureaucracy, as I'm sure you can imagine. But it kind of opens up other doors to us now. So both more funding doors, because once you've got one grant, it's kind of you're in the system to be able to get others. So we're about to go, and in the next couple of months we'll try and get the next sort of round of government grant funding. But there's kind of support and stuff that you get as well. So we're going up to an event up in Leeds in a couple of weeks' time, which is all around meeting investors and other tech businesses. So there's kind of other support that you get too. And yeah, another reason why we wanted to do it, I guess, was because we saw that lots of agencies were starting to think about developing pieces of tech because they wanted to diversify their model, because the agency model is a difficult one, and if you've got a piece of tech in your business, you're likely to get a higher multiple when and if you ever have an exit. And the SaaS model is really different and easier to make money from than an agency model. And so we've always said with the business that we wanted to try and live and breathe the same challenges that our clients were facing, so that we can help them in the best way possible. So part of us doing this and experimenting with it is because we want to experience the same challenges that our agency clients are facing.
And do you help other agencies in this space look at how you can look at a product or sort of new solutions to help them focus on how they can build that business case, how they can access?
Yeah, so we work with a few clients where they are building tech products as well, and it's around, often the tech product that they build can be sold to other agencies. So there comes a point where you kind of need to decouple the two brands so that the tech product can sell to the agency's competitors, essentially. And that's a really interesting challenge. Actually, the hero moment stuff as well can often lead into that, where we're working with a client. It's the first year of their hero moment, which is a piece of research this year, but ultimately what we're looking to do is to build something out which is like their own metric, which will plug into Google Analytics GA4. So they will have something more proprietary further down the line. So viewing your hero moment through that lens, if you know that that's something that you want to do, would be a good way of looking at it.
And with those hero moments, how would you tackle, because actually if we are more niche in the UK, and I think that's because there's more competition for less clients. In the US, it's sort of sometimes still seen as the Wild West in their thinking about clients and agency, that relationship side of things. How would an agency from that go find the right agency in the US to help enter that space?
It's really interesting. Actually, selling into the US is relatively easy as well. Like they are bottom of funnel. They're really direct. It's quite easy to get. I don't want to say easy, but it's not as challenging in the UK to get cut through. So I would say partnering with bigger agencies that are maybe full service, and offering what you do as part of their bigger function, finding agencies that want to expand into the UK and win more UK clients, because there's a lot of them in the US at the minute. Starting on the West Coast is easier because of the time difference. But yeah, there's a load of opportunity there, but there's opportunity to go direct to client as well. It's not just in the, acting as a part of a function of a bigger agency, but there's definitely opportunity to go direct to client because they love our client services. It's really, the client services piece is really different out in the US, I think in part because of their employment laws, and actually your account manager could be gone the next day. So there's a bit of that, but as a function, it's just more built out here in the UK, and they really like that. So not only are we cheaper, but they feel like they get a better service from us.
And I think weirdly, procurement are less active or less dictatorial. What's the best way of describing how procurement can push you down? But they're less understanding of commercial costs, I think, in the US.
Interesting. Yeah, and they make decisions really fast, in my experience as well. Like, and that's a double-edged sword. It's great when you're winning the work because you find out if you've done really well and you've done a good job, you'll get really good feedback and they will make a decision quickly. But the flip side of that is if things go wrong, they will tell you, and they will make a decision the other way quickly too. So that's a bit of a double-edged sword. But we really like working with agencies in the US. Yeah.
Awesome. If anyone's got any other questions, please do sort of just ask away. I'll put your hand up or ask in the chat because it'd be great to get some more people involved. But One of the things I was actually reading the research, it's really interesting, but you talked about sort of there's a lack of, and David touched on it as well, there's assumptions that clients understand what you're saying when you talk about strategy, what you're saying when you talk about the services that you offer, but they often don't. So how can you help? And I think this is, I'm going to answer it probably partly, which is get into the client's language that they need to understand to help buy you.
Yeah, so when we run a positioning strategy for an agency, we'd always do a competitor analysis to see how your direct competitors and more aspirational agencies, how they're talking and where the white space is for you to play. But we also speak to kind of 3 or 5 of your current clients, or again, if you're wanting to shift your client base, and we'd maybe speak to prospects if we can get access to them, because it validates what the agency thinks their USP is, or what they, the reasons why they think their clients work with them. It either validates that or not, but it also can bring out really beautiful language that we can use in the messaging and in that external articulation. We often end up replaying back some of the things that their clients have said, so it kind of feels and sounds right. So speaking to your clients is great for a whole range of reasons. They're unlikely to say to you or someone or the person that they're working with in their team what they really think. And there's other people that just do client interviews, but it's something that we do as part of our strategies too.
I think it's really important. I know getting client feedback after pitch, they don't like speaking directly. They're always nervous that you always come close second and stuff like that, which means nothing really. So it's that external validation really does help them open it up. So do look at speaking with Claire about that. I'm sort of coming up to sort of final question really is around actually with your report you said you spent a lot of time up front getting your social feeds ready for the next 6 months. If you're a smaller business, how would you make sure that you can take your hero content and actually focus on finding that hero content, but taking it and using it for that year and sort of creating sort of the moments and sort of specialist moments that clients can latch onto and engage with?
Yeah. So definitely spending the time up front in a condensed period has helped us. We're a team of 4 of us. We're a core team of 4 of us, and then we bring in freelancers as we need to. But the way we've managed it, rather than trying to do something every week or every month, by having an intense period of time that we can kind of block book in, has really helped. And on a bigger scale, you might be planning in roundtables quarterly or monthly. The other thing, it's not just our socials, but we've kind of got email nurture campaigns. So once someone downloads the report, there's a whole load of other content. I think we've written about 15 or 20 blogs, that will be drip fed out throughout the course of the year as well. And yeah, it was done over about 2 or 3 days of the whole team kind of just working intensely on it. That's how we've managed it. And for smaller agencies, I think, and bigger ones really as well, if you can't outsource it or you don't have a team of people that you can kind of dedicate time to, and it also works well like when there are sort of more difficult times in the business and there are maybe the dips in the troughs where you're not as busy. Just use that, have a plan for how you're going to use that, because using the downtime on yourselves will help you and help kind of give you that consistency across the year. So even if it's not a hero moment, using the dips or working with whoever's kind of resourcing your teams to get a group of people intensely around an issue and creating stuff that can then be drip fed out, it's a useful tactic.
Yeah, because I think actually it's so true, because so much content is created last minute, and it's sort of we've got to get something out because we've got to send out this newsletter, we've got to put this blog on our post. So they write something and doesn't really do the job that it's supposed to do.
Or it might be like if it's that whoever's free at the time, it might be a more junior person and it doesn't quite resonate the way you want and need it to. And that's why hero moments are good, because it kind of focuses the team around one thing so that everyone can you know, everyone in the team can have their part to play in creating that hero moment, and they are clearer about what the proposition is and, you know, what to say and when, because it's all focused around one thing. And it doesn't mean that you can't be reactive as well to things that are going on in the market and in the industry. Of course, leave space in your content calendars and whatever it is you're doing to be reactive, but it just means that you can show up consistently if you take that approach.
Brilliant. We are coming to the end of the session. So Claire, just the last question is, what 3 things should an agency focus on for the rest of this financial year to change the way they approach their marketing?
Set a budget if you don't already have one, and consider how you're going to resource your marketing. If it's all just a bit fly by the seat of your pants, it means that you can't be consistent. Get your positioning in order, because if your positioning is strong and everyone in your team is clear about how to articulate that, it will make the rest of your marketing easier. And that's probably the first one. And then the closest we can really get to a silver bullet, because I'm often asked, like, what's the one thing that we should do, is to practice what you preach and do for yourselves what you do for your clients, and make it your aim to be your own best case study.
That's really interesting, actually, putting teams on it and getting them involved to help make it. So actually, I know some agencies that will create a team to be their own marketing side of things, and focusing especially, they've got a marketing manager, but they've got a team behind him who are from the agency, specialists that can do their job.
Yeah, like a marketing manager, I mean, I don't know how much time we've got, but a marketing manager is a bit of an island within an agency, and I know because it was me for most of my career. And so you do need kind of other advocates within the business that will give the marketing manager what they need to be able to succeed. If the marketing manager is on their own and you think, well, the budget line is the marketing manager, job done, it probably won't be the win that you think it is bringing one in.
Yeah, it's not the marketing managers to write the content. They're not the experts in this space.
Particularly if you're getting a 2 or 3 year experience person, which often we see, you know, they will be brilliant at executing, but they'll still need the guidance, they'll still need the strategy, and they're not necessarily going to be a subject matter expert, certainly not in the first year of them being in that role. And it can grow, that can grow over time. But yeah, just being realistic about the other resource that will be required. Yeah, just hiring a marketing manager, thinking that's your budget done, it probably isn't going to solve all your challenges.
Brilliant. Thank you, Claire. So that is actually all we've got time for. So Claire, thank you so much for the research. I think it's brilliant and a fantastic session, that's sharing that research with us. So thank you. There will be some key takeaways following today, where we'll be showing the video that we've recorded, and there will also be we'll put the link to the report as well, so the research, so you can actually download the research and read it yourself, because there's some really interesting sort of highlights that you can look at implementing straight away. As I said, we're posting the video later. If you do want to get in touch with Claire, do come through me, because I can help sort of make those introductions. So the whole part of Pimento Fuse is we have a team of lots of different agencies like Chime, who sit under sort of Fuse within the Pimento remit, but my role is to help coordinate and facilitate introductions into each of those businesses, so you can get exactly what you're looking for. A couple of upcoming events. We've got the next BD Club on the 21st of June, and that's going to be focusing on actually how to productize your agency for new business growth. And that's going to be with Andrew Martin. And the next 6 p.m. club is tonight.
Tonight.
So if you haven't registered, please do register tonight. It's a good networking event. I can't make it because my wife's in town and I've got to cook for dinner for my 2 children. So I'm sorry if I'm not there, but I'll catch up hopefully next time. And then I've been mentioning over the last couple of months, previous calls, about conducting mini roundtables, where we're looking to get 6 agencies in a room to share the challenges that they're facing and get sort of experts' advice coming to you and helping you solve some of those challenges, so you've got immediate actions that you can take from these. So the first one we've got is on the I've forgotten the date, 19th of June, I think it is, Friday, 19th of June. It's going to be online, and I'm going to be joined by Guy Littlejohn at Facets, and anything to do with new business, any challenges you're facing across new business, please do register and let us know. It should be in the chat coming through. But there's a little survey to see if you're interested in attending, and we can follow up. But it's a really individual way of making sure that we can help you from Pimento's perspective, help you in sort of all the different facets of what we can deliver from our perspective. So as you can see, there's a little round table. If you're interested in attending these micro roundtables, please click here, yes, and any challenges that you're facing. Roundtable is 21st of June. Thank you, Teresa. So if we just finish this off with this poll, that'd be awesome. Thank you. And then once you are done, I will just say thank you very much for your time. And I hope you got a lot out today. And Claire, thank you very much as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.